Hello, Gamecock fans. I'm Spencer Ball.
And I'm JP Barry. Welcome to Ball Don't Lie, SGTV's premier live sports show.
JP and I will be giving you our weekly insight every Sunday.
This week on the show, we're reviewing an exciting Week 5 of college football.
And later, the Carolina Panthers so far and the death of professional sports in Oakland.
Be sure to stick around for head-to-head football pick'ems.
And without further ado, welcome to Ball Don't Lie.
Welcome to the Kennedy Greenhouse Studio.
I'm Spencer Ball.
And I'm JP Barry.
This is the one where there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer.
I'm always the get-back game guy.
There's so many teams with so many good wins.
Because, they love seeing Clemson lose no matter what.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that love seeing Clemson lose.
Return of the King released 20 years ago today.
There you go. And for that reason, give me the Noles.
I like being right more than I like being happy.
I think the committee made the right choice.
Florida State did not lose a football game. It's football. This is college football. How can you not be romantic about baseball? It's just such a tremendous sport.
It's time. Is it time?
I think it's time.
This is Ball Don't Lie.
And this Saturday, the Gamecocks return from their bye week to face the recently upset Ole Miss Rebels. And JP, it felt like if Kentucky didn't do it this past weekend, we might be the ones to do it this weekend. Ole Miss, big-time fraud watch from us, I think, from the start of the season.
They're a team that's led by a soft head coach. They're a mercenary transfer portal, expendables crew. And they're not built in the trenches. They try to come out and air it out all the time. They run it up on these smaller schools.
Yeah, they averaged almost 700 yards per game through the first 4 weeks. And then, they played Kentucky, who, again, Kentucky hasn't looked like world beaters so far, but they've certainly improved and, just didn't show up.
Now, they're a soft team led by a soft head coach. It was the most predictable thing, I think, in college football. And for South Carolina, coming off of a much-needed bye week with Rocket Sanders and Lenore Sellers, they'll get another chance against a ranked opponent. And, someone that over the last 15 years or so, South Carolina has had some success against, with them being 3-1 in the last 4 meetings.
Yeah, their last meeting produced that infamous moment where, Kiffin threw the clipboard about 50 yards into the air after South Carolina gave up a huge passing play. I'm sure the Gamecocks are going to want to limit that. To Ole Miss's credit, Jackson Dart and Trey Harris have been connecting at a really incredible level. JP, you want to read off Harris's stats?
49 catches, 804 yards, and 5 touchdowns in 5 games. That's not even real.
He was doing everything he could to beat the Wildcats. I believe he had 11 catches, almost 200 yards and a score. But again, Ole Miss just didn't have it, couldn't get the ground game going. Juice Wells went missing. No stats put up except for, some cardio. But I'm sure he's going to have a warm welcome waiting for him back at Williams-Brice this weekend.
I can't wait. I'm excied for that one.
More.
For South Carolina, it's another crack at a ranked opponent, a chance to move to 2-1 in SEC play. And, you really are starting to get into the meat of the schedule. After this, you're going to go to Oklahoma, I believe, and then Tuscaloosa. And,
I don't remember if you had those flipped or not, but the next 3 weeks are it's tough.
You welcome back A&M and then, Mizzou, and you're going to be facing a lot of ranked teams. So an opportunity against someone you match up pretty well against. I'm interested to see if South Carolina can take advantage of it.
Yeah, and if they get a ranked win and get some momentum going, I think the schedule looked worse at the beginning of the season, if you will, because I think people expected a little more out of Oklahoma. Mizzou hasn't looked as good, I think, as people once thought. Vandy gave them a real scare.
We'll find out this weekend.
I think Bama is the real team that everyone we'll definitely talk a little bit more about them later. But they're the team, I think, that have actually lived up to their hype so far that South Carolina has to face the rest of the way. But again, a huge opportunity this Saturday for South Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. And, yesterday rounded up just, including the Kentucky victory over number 6 Ole Miss, a great Week 5 of college football. And here's some of the games you might have missed out on. One of them, I'm sure you didn't, but we'll get to that. Starting, of course, on Friday night, number 8 Miami escaped Virginia Tech after a wild end. Virginia Tech led by double digits. Miami came back, took the lead, and then Virginia Tech with a Hail Mary at the end. But after replay review, officials said no go on the Hail Mary from Kyron Jones. So Miami escaped. Spencer, what did you think about that one?
I think it was a First off, very exciting game, long game.
It was a lot like I think what we thought we'd see out of Virginia Tech this year.
Yeah, they look a lot better than they had to start the year. Definitely improving as the season goes on. Probably kicking yourself that you didn't manage the time better in that last drive because, again, it shouldn't have come down to a Hail Mary, but they lost a good 30 seconds there that really they didn't need to. But I think the call, I don't think you can be too mad about the officials for calling that incomplete. But I think they maybe should have called it the way they called it on the field because I don't really know how you overturn that.
The replay was just scuffed.
Just a mass of bodies, and apparently there was a football in there. But again, I thought it was a great game.
Spartanburg zone, John Love with a 58-yard field goal for the Hokies. One of the best kickers in college football.
And he was looking good, man. I tell you what, automatic from distance.
And so then after that, we kicked off our Saturday action with just the worst conference in college football, the Big 12. Kansas State put hands on the Cowboys, 42-20 in Manhattan. Ran for 300 yards. Avery Johnson threw for about 260 and 3 touchdowns. And Spencer, DJ Giddens, Dylan Edwards, Avery Johnson, one of the best running attacks in college football. But Ollie Gordon, he did average 5 yards per carry, but only had 76 total yards on the ground. Another kind of pedestrian performance from him.
Yeah, and again, it is really hard to carry a team whenever you go down so quick, so early. They're not going to run the ball that often. They've got to get back in the game, and frankly, they couldn't stop K-State at all. I mean, they just ran, again, over 300 yards rushing for the Wildcats. Oklahoma State looked just outmatched up front. And Kansas State, I think, showed us that they are still a good Big 12 team even after they got thumped by BYU last week.
Who did win against Baylor.
Who did. So, I think there's the teams are thinning out at the top of that conference. It's going to be certainly interesting. And in the J.P. Barry Bowl, it was Notre Dame hanging on and, slamming the door on the Cardinals. And it came down to kind of the last drive there, holding on fourth down.
It was a weird game. Notre Dame fumbled the opening kickoff, and then Louisville scored, and then Louisville fumbled their opening kickoff but recovered it, and then fumbled on the very next play. For Notre Dame, went down. It was a rainy afternoon in South Bend, but the Irish, wearing green, looking for vengeance, cheered on by WWE's own Sheamus.
Wearing green.
Yeah, this country was founded on underdogs.
If you can see our graphic, that's the green uniforms just
exactly.
Very, very pretty uniforms.
Love it. One of the best. I think it's the best Notre Dame's green jerseys have ever looked. The white pants better than the green, but we need to see it with the gold next year. The gold pants with the new shiny metallic trim on the numbers.
I'll reach out to Freeman.
Hey, coach. But no, Tyler Show and Louisville, they looked very good offensively in the first half, and then were kind of stymied in the second as Notre Dame's defense adjusted. But Riley Leonard, 17-23 through the air, 2 touchdown passes, a touchdown run, led Notre Dame in rushing, made plays when he had to. The Irish very aggressive on fourth downs, and they came out with the win. It really could have been, I think, an even bigger victory for Notre Dame. 14 of Louisville's 24 points came off of turnovers, but Louisville bouncing back. They got some easy games. Notre Dame headed to the bye week. And then our other big game of that 3:30 window was in Jerry World. As number 24 Texas A&M came from behind, allowing just 3 points after the first quarter, and defeated Arkansas 21-17. Spencer, the Hogs just couldn't hang on to the football.
No, they couldn't. And I tell you what, Taylon Green with 3 turnovers. It really wasn't a fun one to watch.
No, it wasn't.
The first quarter was fun.
That's true.
It was I believe 14-14 in the first quarter. At least A&M scored early in the second, and you're like, we might have a shootout on our hands. Offenses completely forgot how to play.
Football.
It was really just not very fun after that. A&M has had Arkansas's number. I think they're 12-1 or 13-1 since playing them in the SEC, which is absolutely ridiculous. Arkansas just can't get over the hump, and it looked like they would if they, scored a touchdown in their opening drive. It just wasn't meant to be.
It's the Charlie Brown, kicking thing every year with Arkansas. Yeah. Every year Arkansas, oh my God, we're going to beat A&M, and then boop, it happens every single year, and it's always because of turnovers. But staying in the SEC, Spencer, it looked like a dud.
Game of the year.
Looked like a 28-0 Bama, 30-7 Bama, and then the Crimson Tide, kicked it into high gear. Or excuse me, the Georgia Bulldogs kicked it into high gear.
Well, the Crimson Tide kicked their feet up, and
they were
kind of just hanging out, and that kind of cost them. And I've seen a lot of interesting conversations about when do you take your foot off the gas? And I think the answer is just never.
Not when you're playing Georgia.
There are too many good teams and good individual players, especially on that field, that can just flip the script immediately. And we saw Georgia, after Carson Beck looking like he couldn't read, green eggs and ham, started just launching the ball deep, and Alabama looked just lost.
Helpless.
I
Look, he's not throwing it directly at us anymore. What are we going to do?
That's exactly what it looked like, and Georgia's defense finally showed up in the second half. But, I mean, the story of the game, it's two guys. Jalen Milroe, who was excellent. His only interception was on a fumbled pass from a tight end. Let's throw that out there.
That's true.
And Ryan Williams, that kid is ridiculous.
He hit the dirty bird in the end zone after he scored the game-winning touchdown with 2 minutes left.
That move, making the Georgia defenders kiss, was pretty awesome.
Did he Matt Forte'd them? Oh, my God.
It was unbelievable.
We freaked out. We were watching it. We started screaming.
I stood up from the couch, and, that's probably all I can say. He made a toe tap catch into a dead leg 360 move. It was one of the coolest things ever.
And they said NCAA 25 was unrealistic.
Yeah, there you go. But it finally, at the end lived up to that marquee billing. In the first half,
oh my God, it was one of the, I was like, dude, it's kind of funny, but it's it sucks.
Yeah, I was like, we wanted the game, and, thanks to Georgia, they actually made it one. But, the nightcap was Boise State Wazoo, and I tell you what, we thought this one was probably going to be a little bit closer, but no one has an answer for Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah, not if Ashton Jeanty has anything to say about it.
26 carries, 259 yards, 4 more touchdowns. He's almost at 900 yards on the season.
He would be at 1,000, I think, if he didn't sit out the Portland State game when they had that in hand. He's on pace to break Barry Sanders' rushing yard record in a season. He's the headline of the team that's really kind of looking like a major contender for the Group of 5 playoff spot. But Spencer, as we're going to see this coming week, there's another team in the Mountain West that's turned some heads.
They sure are, and it's not just about South Carolina this weekend. There are big matchups in Week 6 across all conferences. As you were mentioning, JP, let's start off with that Mountain West team, the UNLV Runnin' Rebs, take on Syracuse. It's a Friday night game. UNLV's been, just absolutely shrouded in controversy. But I think this one's going to be a fun game.
Yeah, Syracuse bounced back from losing to Stanford with a blowout win over Holy Cross.
First off, losing to Stanford.
Yeah,
oh man,
I don't know what
look
happened.
Atrocious. They can't throw forward passes. They look like Bo Nix today.
Yeah, but they somehow did it. But Kyle McCord has been good for the Orangemen. They're going on the road, man. UNLV, ranked for the first time in program history, and the quarterback who filled in for noted interesting person Matt Saluka, Hajj Malik Williams, scored 3 touchdowns.
Transfer, am I right?
Yes,
yeah,
the former Camel starter
in
the route of Fresno State. He's also ran for 207 yards on the season, so he is a major double threat. And speaking of double, you're not seeing double. There is a tie at the bottom of the rankings. The number 25 Texas A&M Aggies are going to welcome number 9 Mizzou to College Station for our kind of noon kickoff on ABC. Spencer, I'm very excited for this one. It's Mizzou's. They're coming off the bye after they struggled with Vandy. It's their biggest test of the season so far, easily.
This is the game that'll tell us what we're going to make of Mizzou. They haven't looked like the same team as last year, but again, haven't played anybody that threatening. Again, I think Vandy is kind of sneaky, pretty solid this year that a lot of teams I don't think would have expected. A&M's definitely going to be their biggest threat. As much as A&M might not be fun to watch, they've got a really good defense. They're big in the trenches, and they pose a threat for everybody in the nation because of that fact. Yeah,
and the offensive line pays holes for Le'Veon Moss to run through, and he's been very good. Ran for over 100 yards against Arkansas. He's got around I think 500 on the season already. So a great tailback there. If they can get Connor Weigman back healthy, we'll see what can happen there. But it's a tough place to play. Mizzou has not gone into an environment and won like this in a long time. It's going to be tough. Very interested to see how they handle it. But Spencer, yeah, that's really only the start. It's kind of a tough. It's a week where there's not a ton of headline matchups. But we got an interesting one here at 4 o'clock on FS1. The Nebraska Cornhuskers versus Rutgers, the 4-0 Scarlet Knights. for the first time since 2012, and they're looking to be ranked for the first time since 2012 as they'll take on Nebraska. The Cornhuskers took care of business in West Lafayette, while Rutgers defeated the national runners-up from last year, Washington, at home.
Now, of course, Washington is not the same team as last year's, but I tell you what, I think Rutgers got better. I mean, they look good defensively. You know, they made Washington just look bad. And frankly, you know, Will Rogers' team, you expect them to a lot of passing attempts, moving the ball downfield. Rutgers did a good job of stymieing that. And when they get the ball, I mean, it's like going back in time. You know, they run the ball. A lot of short passes, but they take their time, and it makes sense they ran the ball. Monangai?
That sounded right.
I don't know why I sped it up so fast, but Rutgers running back. He's, you know, if Ashton Genty wasn't having just an incredible season, I think there'd be a much bigger spotlight on him as one of the premier backs in the nation. Yeah,
589 rushing yards through 4 games. He's really been the workhorse for this Rutgers team. And then heading to our nightcap, the 1-4 Florida State Seminoles will welcome the number 15 rated Clemson Tigers to Tallahassee at 7 o'clock on ESPN. Spencer, Florida State is suing the ACC because they think that playing SMU is beneath them. Well, ladies and gentlemen, they went to Dallas and faced SMU yesterday and lost 42-16. Meanwhile, Clemson, continuing to improve offensively, they blew out Stanford 40-14. Another chapter in this rivalry in the ACC, and man, Clemson could deliver the death blow.
You know, if you didn't mention it, I was going to say it, you know, in our fact sheet, this could be the death blow to the Noles season. It could be the death blow to whatever they got going on there. I mean, I don't know what their future plans are, but when you just try and replace a team that just missed the college football playoff with a bunch of transfer portal guys, the team clearly lacks a leader. Yep. I mean, there's nobody out there who seems to
nobody cares. I mean,
that's what it looks like.
When I watch Florida State, there's just nobody cares.
It's atrocious, man. And it's easy stuff that they're messing up. Is, you know, you got to feel bad a little bit for DJ Uiagalelei at some points because sometimes he's delivering good balls. When he does, I mean, the tight end yesterday for Florida State hit him right here in the hands and went about 10 feet up in the air. And so for a free pick for SMU. So it seems like they just don't do the fundamentals right, and they've got nothing going for them. So huge opportunity to do anything with their season against Clemson, but Clemson looks pretty good.
Yeah, they might get booed off the field. Then staying in the ACC, College Game Day is going to Berkeley for the first time in the history of the program.
Go Bears,
and the Cal Golden Bears, coming off of a bye week after suffering a loss to Florida State, will host the number 8 Miami Hurricanes. Spencer, you know, this Cal team, strong defense, strong running identity against, you know, a flashy, high-powered Miami squad. You know, I'm interested to see, after they struggled with Virginia Tech was really able to run the ball. I'm interested to see how Miami will handle this.
I'm really interested in how Cal's going to match up with Miami's front seven. You know, clearly, if Virginia Tech was able to move the ball on the ground like they were, Miami's probably going to want to have an answer for that because, you know, they've got to deal with Jaden Ott and Javian Thomas. And that Bears dual-threat rushing attack is not going to be fun at all. But Miami does have Cam Ward. Xavier Restrepo is really good.
Damian Martinez and CJ2K's son.
Yeah, so Miami's just having a bit of fun out there on offense. And Cam Ward, again, just known for his nonchalant play. He'll just, you know, have 3 rushers headed at him. He'll just loft the ball. And, you know, it ends up being a touchdown.
I guess I'll throw a touchdown.
It's worked out for him. He's a Heisman hopeful, but we've got an 11 o'clock kickoff game. It's Arizona hosting
Texas Tech. It might not end
Texas
until 3 a.m.
It
Both these teams, Arizona, we talked about it, Noah Fafita and Tate McMillan. They defeated number 10 Utah yesterday. But the Red Raiders in Lubbock, man, defeated Cincinnati 44-41 last night after Cincy missed a last-second field goal. They have a great backfield as Baron Morton has thrown for over 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns. Taj Brooks had 172 rushing yards against the Bearcats. Spencer, you know, it's been it's a return to form for the Red Raiders.
Absolutely, and again, first off, let's just backtrack a little bit. Where is Cam Rising? He's been questionable for 2 seasons.
Where in the world?
So don't know what's going on with his pinky finger, but it's costing Utah a chance to go to the CFP because, you know, if they have a starting quarterback, probably win last night. So
you'd think.
Just rather sad. But again, got to credit Arizona getting the win. I think this game's going to be really fun for anyone that stays up for it. But, that's how Week 6 is looking.
Absolutely, and we've got more professional sports and more Gamecock athletics as well after this commercial.
And despite a valiant effort by new quarterback Andy Dalton, the Carolina Panthers fell to 1-3 today after a 34-24 loss to the Bengals. And again, JP, at least the team looks like they're improving. We've been talking about it behind closed doors, of course. When is the right time to talk about the Panthers? And, we decided today, after 4 games, we'd kind of assess the team a little bit, and they look like a new team. If you cut the season in half, weeks 1 and 2 versus weeks 3 and 4, I mean, at least they're watchable.
No, yeah, and Dave Canales said that, the team is improving week to week, which is the most important thing you can see, coming into a situation like this. The defense struggled at times, but also, they got off the field and gave the team opportunities to tie it or win it late. They forced turnovers. The pass rush needs to be better. But
the pass rush is pretty brutal. It's really
tough
bad.
because you lost Derek Brown after that brutal week 1 in New Orleans. But the secondary has had their moments. But really, the improvement and what we've loved to see has really come on the offensive end of things. Chuba Hubbard is awesome. Jonathan Brooks will be joining the team soon, the draft pick out of Texas, great running back. Deontay Johnson, Xavier Legette. Even Jonathan Mingo has pitched in a couple times.
Jatavian Sanders had a couple catches today.
Get your playmakers in space.
And without Adam Thielen, of course, who's hurt with a hamstring injury, there's more space for those younger guys to step up. And they've really been pretty impressive so far. Legette scored his first touchdown today, so that was a pretty cool moment. But again, a couple plays definitely could have turned the tides against the Bengals today. But if you're
on the goal line on your first drive,
namely,
it's a step up to be in those positions where you can limit things. And they've graded out one of the best offensive lines in football. Hopefully Damian Lewis gets healthy up there at that left guard position because you definitely kind of missed him today, especially on the goal line, stuff like that. But that offensive line's been really good. They've given Andy Dalton time to throw. And the schedule gets a little bit easier. The Bengals had a tough start to the year, but they're still the Bengals with Joe Burrow and a team with, playoff aspirations. But now you enter a period where you're playing teams like the Bears, and the Bears are a team that I think you need to beat. But the defense will get better. I think we'll see what happened with Shaq Thompson because turf is actually evil. But I'm feeling encouraged.
Stink, yeah.
And it's hard to be mad. It's they're playing watchable, competitive NFL football games.
And
after the first 2 weeks,
that's a step up.
Yep.
Hey, if the defense can learn to tackle, it'll be great.
Yeah. Hey, if you are a person in the Carolinas with functioning legs and a football jersey, please report to Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte for tackling circuit early Monday morning. We need all of our warm bodies.
Yeah, we'll be leading.
There will be Cajun filet biscuits. We will feed you. All right, anyway, that's probably enough Panthers that anyone's ever wanted in their lives. We'll shift gears. Hey, Charlotte FC, doing pretty good. We'll come on down the interstate to Gamecock men's soccer as they have racked up a 2-game win streak since falling to number 10 Marshall. It started on the road, against it started at home against Queens, and then yesterday on the road in Conway against Coastal Carolina. Spencer, 2-game win streak. One of them being in conference play. Nice to see after a tough loss against Marshall.
Absolutely. We talked about it last time. Their performance against Marshall, I think, was really good. And again, that's still their only loss on the season, but I think the Gamecocks have done a great job of, instead of, not like settling, but instead of, having a couple plays go wrong and ending up in a draw, they've been able to really get wins as of late and kind of hold their leads. Yesterday, they went up 2-0 against Coastal Carolina. The Chanticleers drew one back with a penalty in like the 88th minute. But, you leave them that little time. The Gamecocks ended up with a 2-1 win, and that's big in conference play. It's their first conference win of the year. And Ethan Ballack just keeps racking it up on the stat sheet. Him and Harrison Myring are they're a 1-2 punch up front.
Absolutely. Viztier's gotten better in net.
His best game.
They've weathered the storm. In games we've seen, guys like St. Juice getting hurt. They've dealt with a lot of adversity in that department. But they're responding well to adversity in every phase of the game. And I don't think you could ask for anything more.
Yep, they take on Kentucky this Friday. Kentucky, a much better team seemingly last year than they are this year, but it's still a Sun Belt matchup, and in men's soccer, of course, not in football. But it's going to be really interesting to see how the Gamecocks fare. But Cock Hockey also comes back home this Friday after a 3-4 loss against the NC State Ice Pack in Morrisville. And JP, just not their best performance. But again, it was Zach Hayes' first start of the year. Tomoyan didn't get the call in net, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Tomoyan has recorded a loss when he's the starting goalie for the Gamecocks.
I don't think, I think
11-0-1 last year.
I think that's true. And, Hayes, what happened? He was locked in, a couple of years ago, struggled at the start of last season and ceded the starting job to Tomoyan, who never relinquished it. Now he gets the opportunity in a big game on the road against NC State. And he kind of flubs it, let in a couple softies. The team was too deep in the hole, tried to come back, just didn't quite have enough. But NC State's a very good team. And so, losing on the road there, you'll take it, especially after how you looked in Tuscaloosa against Alabama. John Riggins.
17 goals in 2 games is absolutely absurd.
Yeah, the goal scoring has been there for the Gamecocks so far this season. And for John Riggins, 2 more goals. In that comeback effort, and you'll love to see it. They'll return home against, I believe, North Carolina this week. Or is it?
Oh, God, we should know this.
We should know this. The logo looked like North Carolina. It might be St. Thomas.
You know what? Be tuned this Friday. That's how you'll know.
We're bad people.
Charleston. Hey, our producer.
Is that true?
We've got our words.
They've
already beaten North Carolina twice, so it is going to be the College of Charleston. We forget to add it in, and that just shows you how we're a little brain fried here.
It's been a long week, ladies and gentlemen, and hey,
there's our place of work right back there.
It's not work; we don't get paid. Workers' rights. But speaking of tough work, sad weeks, and even sadder news. Oakland sports, as we know it, have ceased to exist with today's conclusion of their game. The Oakland A's are no more. 57 years spent in Oakland, all of them being at the Coliseum. 4 World Series titles, even more AL pennant wins, AL West championships. They sold out their last game. One of the best environments in sports. One of the best color schemes. One of the best everything. They have one of the best movies about sports about them. And the fact that it's been ripped away from them because of people like John Fisher and Rob Manfred is a total bleeping joke, and I can't stand it, and it makes my blood boil.
Well, and it's not just the A's, and that's the heartbreaking part.
Exactly.
The Warriors move arenas, the Raiders also leaving for Las Vegas, and you just rip sports out of a community.
A community that deserves it, not a soulless corporate husk like Vegas that only deserves bad things. I'm not going to say, but
it is so sad because why does, these fans are clearly dedicated, and they haven't had a reason to be dedicated in over 20 years.
Because your ownership has actively chosen to make you worse by getting rid of all your good players.
And still the A's have done their best to remain competitive, and the fans pack the place, and yet, this is how they get repaid. It's, John Fisher is, of course, the main culprit in this act of evil, but also the other 29 MLB owners have a say to say no to this move.
And former Padres owner, I forget, I think its last name was Cipher, before he passed away before the start of this season, he had a coalition of owners that were going to vote against the A's leaving. He passes away, and Rob Manfred waited for him, because a terminal illness, waited for him to pass away to then strong-arm the rest of those owners into breaking up the coalition that would have kept the A's in Oakland. Because Rob Manfred is a soulless husk just like Vegas, and he hates nothing more in this world than baseball.
But if you look at any social media, hashtag A's, and just look at what you see, people who've been to their very first A's game. There's somebody who was at the very first A's game in the Oakland Coliseum, went to the last one a couple days ago. It's a place that'll have a lot of great memories in it, but sadly it won't have A's baseball anymore. And that's a tragedy not just for A's fans. Neither of us are A's fans, but it's just sad to see anything in any sport happen like that, and especially to a community that deserves a better better team.
Yeah, I mean, I hate all these people involved. I don't think there's really anything else I can say on the matter.
No,
that at least cannot
should not be televised.
Yeah, hey.
But again, unfortunately, that's where we're going to leave you for today. We will be right back, of course, after the break with this week's Pick'ems to wrap up another episode of Ball Don't Lie.
Welcome back to BDL Pick'ems, and at the start of Week 4, we're all tied up with a 21-9 record for the both of us. And Spencer, we're going to kind of blitz through these.
First off, miraculous comeback for me. Started 5-5, 16-4 the last 2 weeks.
That's true.
Been pretty. Hey, we're both doing good.
Yeah,
Much
yeah.
better. If you were here with us a couple seasons ago, we weren't so good at this.
No. But we'll start on Sunday Night Football as the Baltimore Ravens take on the Buffalo Bills. Spencer, who do you got?
I'm going to take the Bills in this one. Right now, I think they look like the best team in football, and until they prove me wrong, I'm going to rock with them.
Yeah, I think the Ravens take it at home. The home crowd there. I think Lamar is capable of making some of those big plays to kind of eke you out in a game between two heavyweights such as this. Now we got another doubleheader on Monday Night Football. We'll start with the Miami Dolphins versus the Tennessee Titans. Spencer, who do you got?
Yeah, with no Tua, this game is just not going to be a fun watch, I don't think. I'm going with the Titans for the entertainment factor. Will Levis is going to make this somehow must-see TV. But I think the Titans might finally get a win after kind of playing all right so far.
I struggle. I think Tyler Huntley starting for Miami is huge. No Tua, but I think Devon Achane can kind of hawk down some balls out there, get out in space, and win some games for the Dolphins. I think they beat the Titans because the Titans suck. They just suck.
They do.
Our other Monday Night Football game is awesome. Detroit Lions, Seattle Seahawks at Ford Field. Spencer, who do you got?
I'm going to go with the home team here. I'm going to take the Lions. They run a really fun offense. I think Seattle does pose a great matchup to them. But again, I'm going to go with the team that made the NFC Championship game last year.
That's a good pick, but right now I'm rolling with the great defense of the Seattle Seahawks. Timely passes from Geno Smith. And I just think they have a really well-rounded squad. DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Good stable of running backs. I think Kenneth Walker is back this week.
Yep.
That'll help out a lot. Very one of the best defenses in football. I'm going to take the Seahawks as we will now move into college football. We got
sure
7
will.
games for you.
Yep, and we're going to run through them. The first one, UNLV versus Syracuse. JP, who you got?
It's a home game, a huge game for their playoff hopes. I'm taking the running Rebs of UNLV, Spencer.
I think with a UNLV loss to the mighty Orange this week, Boise State looked like the best Group of 5 team, without a doubt. I don't know how they lost to Stanford, but it's going to be a McCord miracle out there in Vegas. Moving on to our next game, it's A&M versus Mizzou. Who you got?
Mizzou's a favorite team of mine in these pick'ems. I usually roll.
For some reason, Columbia.
I usually roll with the Zoo. Not this time at College Station, man. I'm picking the other number 25 team. The Aggies of A&M, I think their defense rises up, and Mizzou just has a horrid day.
Yeah, I think Mizzou is, if they're to win this one, it'll really show a lot to us. So that's why I think A&M is a safe bet. At home, Kyle Field it's a bit crazy. I don't think Mizzou's up for it. Moving on to our beloved Gamecocks as they host number 12 Ole Miss this weekend at Willie B. JP, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Screw Ole Miss. Gamecocks. Juice Wells, count your days.
I had this up the whole time. In Minecraft, we're hearing this strongly, but it's going to be a packed-out crowd, garnered out throughout the stadium. Yep. It's going to be awesome.
Fire Ant defense, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Nebraska versus Rutgers. Who you got in the Big Ten thriller?
Man, hey, I woke up this morning. I got myself a Rutgers pick in Pick'ems, baby. Scarlet Knights, Greg Schiano going on the road, rubbing it in Matt Rule's face. Matt Rule is fake tough. They do Oklahoma drills before games. Rutgers is real tough. Greg Schiano, leader of men. Book it.
What he said. I'm going to go with the Knights as well. Moving on to our next game. This one might be the worst of the lot. It's Florida State versus Clemson. Again, Florida State is 1-4. That's all. JP, who do you think wins this one?
Clemson's offense is going to skin Florida State alive and bathe them in salt. It's going to be brutal. Cade Klubnik is going to be on the Heisman watch after this. Tigers, roll.
I think Clemson also wins. I don't know if it's in such devastating fashion. But Cade Klubnik and that offense have looked a lot better. Moving on to our game day matchup of the week, it's Cal hosting number 8 Miami in the new ACC. JP?
You know what they say.
That look said a million
You know
words.
what they say. It's all about the U. But ladies and gentlemen, not on this day. Cal Golden Bears.
Kind of a Cal tie going on.
Yeah, hey. This is for the Calgorithm, baby. This is for the Calgorithm. If you know, you know. But I'm picking the Golden Bears. I think Jaden Ott puts on a heck of a performance.
I'm taking the U. Look, I don't know if you saw Michael Irvin after Miami's win.
Oh, my God.
That was the scariest thing I've ever seen. Like, I guess he was fired up, but...
I don't know if the plate of powder saw him coming either was after the game.
All right. But I'm going to go with the U and Cam Ward, as Michael Irvin is not a current player for the U, so it doesn't matter what he's doing.
I think he travels.
Moving on to the extreme nightcap. It's Arizona, Texas Tech. I'm going to go with the Wildcats in this one at home at 11 o'clock. Who are you going with?
Yeah, that's a tough body clocks game, I think, for the Red Raiders. Going on the road like that, it's going to be a shootout. Defense normally travels, but for Texas Tech, it does not. I think Tate McMillan puts on a highlight-worthy show.
Another 300-yard game?
Perchance. Noah Fafita goes big. It'll be a good game. I think we're going to try and will this into existence after Wazoo, Boise disappointing us. But I'm going to pick Arizona.
Yep, I'm going with it too, but that's going to do it for this episode of Ball Don't Lie. And be sure to follow us on Instagram, X, and TikTok at SGTV at USC.
To keep up with all of our content, be sure to also visit us online at sgtv@usc.com. For SGTV, I'm JP Barry.
And I'm Spencer Ball from all of us here at SGTV. Have a great week, Carolina.
Forever to thee.